up. All good to
Yeah.
go.
Can't forget the coffee.
Well, it's early-ish here. 10 a.m.
Right.
I'm bringing some
Right.
Zenkichi love in chat already for you.
Appreciate it.
All right. So, how about we get this started off with a question I think everybody sort of asks when it comes to voice actors. Like, how did you get your start in voice acting? Like, what was the process? What were the things behind it? Like, tell us your thoughts on it.
Your origin
So-
story.
Yeah, the origin stories that were, and a bunch of people probably already know some of this from who knows whatever. But I am an actor. So I've got a degree I've got a BFA in acting.
Ooh, fancy.
From Illinois Wesleyan University. Yeah. Been acting since like I was a kid and local productions, whichever. So I started out on stage in Chicago, just trying to do everything I could. And then there was this little voiceover thing, kind of like, in the background, because in Chicago, you have to do everything as an actor. There's not enough work for you just to say, I only do this or I only do this. Those that do that, they're very few and far between. So you do a little bit of everything.
Right.
And then, part of the way through, as this voiceover thing was picking up, everything else just kind of crashed and burned for me. Like stage, I hit a glass ceiling when it came to the bigger houses in town. Just everything else is just not clicking. But the one place they kept saying, come back and do more, was this voice acting thing. And so at that point, I said to my fiance, now wife, I said, I don't think I'm going to beat my head against this theater wall anymore, which is where she had met me. And I said, I think I'm going to go all in on this voice acting thing. She says, okay. And I haven't turned back since. So it's kind of path of least resistance, but the more that I've gotten into it and then teaching it and all this other stuff, it's, I realize, oh, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. One of my things, I remember one of my kind of gimmicks or something, as I guess in my process in college, was I would find the voice of the character, and from that came a lot of other stuff. I used to record on VHS.
Wow.
Anyways, record
Wow.
record my afternoon cartoons, and then I'd pause on the credit screen to see who played what. And I remember my little child's mind being blown that's Mark Hamill as the Joker on the Batman animated series,
Yeah.
And then and then on top of that, the other one I loved was, because I absolutely adore Two-Face parts 1 and 2. It's the first season of Batman animated series. It's brilliant. And then I was like, wait a minute, Richard Mall is Harvey Dent and Two-Face? Wait, Bull from Night Court? And it turns out Bull from Night Court is an amazing voice actor. Absolutely amazing. So that's all been in my background. And it's just, I think part of the reason I didn't come to it earlier is that you all here know, because of the internet and online voiceover, all sorts of other things, that voice acting is a career. It's a real thing. For me, it wasn't as obvious that, hey, here's a avenue for work and for employment. And so you kind of stumbled into it, whereas now you can point and go, I want to do that. There are people making voice acting majors at different universities by cobbling together radio classes and performance classes to tailor to making spoken word audio.
Yeah, it's really a testament to like how the times have changed over like when things used to be like, it's really hard to get into these things, and then with the advent of the internet, different technologies and such and so forth, that they've opened up avenues for people to just do this like we already know from home.
Yep. And I think like you're saying, the avenues, it is accessible, and I think the people are very accessible too, which is one of the things I love about voice acting. But I will also say that it's still the same, like 20 people at like a certain echelon of productions and cartoons and things like that. It's still the same 20 people. And then the crazy part is, which is cool too, is that it's the same 20 people that like you were watching 20 years ago. as a kid, and that speaks to the longevity of this as a career thing, because you can get rid of what you look like, and it's just what you sound like. Rob Paulson joked, he's like, hey, if he lives another 50 years, he'll be able to play the other two turtles that he hasn't played yet, and it's like, yeah, that's absolutely true. Again, it's amazing. I came into here and, in my 30s, they asked me to play early 20s for Scott Ryder, and if I ever get to do that again someday, I'll be even older and they're still playing, 20 or whatever. It's fantastic.
Heck yeah.
And one more thing that lots of people also want to know, now that since you are a huge voice actor and everything like that, how has that positively impacted your life with everything?
You know what? I'm not that huge. I'm 6'2", but it's not that big. See, for me, I still look up, and it might be like an imposter syndrome thing. I had somebody ask about that in a class yesterday. How do you deal with imposter syndrome? And it's like, you don't. It's just always there. Some of you may have seen, the live panel we did a few months ago for the release of Strikers. And, that was me in a Brady Bunch room of people whose work I love and admire and look up to. Some of those people, I taught their work to my students back at Columbia College in Chicago. So it's not changed. Like, I still wake up and I audition for all the things, and I still do a lot of audiobooks. I'd like to do less of that, just because it's one of the harder, I think, harder versions of voice acting that you can do, just on a personal. It's a marathon, and and it's very solitary. But whereas I love the collaborative stuff from games and animation and whatnot. Even commercial stuff is fun. So the one thing I will say is that I've been successful enough, not necessarily to be popular, which is fine. I don't need that, but it's my job, and I love that. And that's the thing that blew me away years ago when we got a house back in the Midwest, and I just was like, wait a minute, I've got a family and dogs and a yard and a little house somewhere, and I did this on acting. That just blew my mind. And there's still times that I look at stuff here and I think that, I just go, that wasn't a family, and all these other things was not part of the plan when I decided to come out and I'm going to be an actor, and do that with my life. And to have been able to do that in a certain capacity and enjoy it and just have that be like, yeah, that's my job, and have been able to support a family doing that. That's unbelievable. That's the best part, is to have enough work to go, oh, I'm a working actor. Yay! Yay! Food on the table. Yay! The lights are on.
A loving family man.
Yeah, that's the best part. That's the best part.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into some meaty questions about your wonderful role. I'll start out here. Sure. Girl who sounds like Futaba wants to know, what were your initial thoughts when you got casted as Zenkichi?
Knowing what the project was ahead of time, that was pretty intimidating. But I just went, just do the audition, just send it out. So to know that I was involved, and I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And then, of course, we had to record it all from home.
Right.
So that was its own, unique challenge for everybody in the cast, because we all have different home setups. Some of us have like booths, some of us do not. So that was fun. But it was more, it was oh, wow. Oh, this is, okay. And you just say yes, and you get in there and do the session. Almost funnier than that was that when we were finishing things up, the folks at PCB, were like, hey, this is going to be a big deal. There's going to be fans and all these other things. And I was like, you know what? I heard it before. In Andromeda. There's not, you know what I mean? And people, oh, this could be a thing. And I was like, nah, I was told there was going to be a thing before, and it actually wound up closing a studio. So I have no preconceptions or no wow, aha moments. It's like, nah, prove it to me. I'll wait. And the cool thing is that, yeah, the fan community, actually, y'all have been really fantastic and cool and supportive, and genuinely supportive of each other too. And that's the best part. It's it's not that, ooh, this blew up and you blew up. It's that, it's to become part of a new community of people that kind of expands on the other community that I'd been brought into with Andromeda, and that's fun. That's been really, really cool.
Right. Interesting.
So wonderful.
Yeah. So, actually, I feel like you might have touched on this a little bit, but like just to go a bit more in depth, like what the gamer dude 7520 wants to know, like what led you to voice acting, like in the first place? Like, was there anything like that stuck out to you? It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and only this.
So, path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Everybody else was saying no, and this one thing said yes, so I'm gonna go do this. But early on, the first, so I did a play, dinner theater actually, and some agent that doesn't exist anymore, but they saw me in that because they came to see a friend of mine in that show, and they signed me up. And the first audition they sent me on was a voiceover audition, and it was for a video game, and I booked it. And it's like, I
Nice.
should have
Ooh.
known then, right? Should have known then. Should have put something into it, but I didn't. And I poked around and tried to find some new, some places to train and study and whatever. And it was always just kind of there and there and there. And then I'm trying to remember when, but I was changing up their agents again back in Chicago, and I had paid way too much money for a demo that wasn't that good, but I had a good resume for voiceover because it was just like all over the board because people didn't know what to do with me, and so they sent me on stuff and I book it. And so I had this weird resume of here's this game, here's this weird thing, here's an animated, here's all sorts of crazy stuff. And I went into my current agency, who I will be with until I die, in Chicago, Grossman and Jack Talent. And I was walked in, casting director. So people are there are other questions later, like how do you get in? What do you do? And I'm going to be talking about, craft and effort and acting and all sorts of stuff like that. But here's also how it works too. So I was working at Chicago Shakespeare Theater, trying to get away from another agency. I was done with it. I went to the casting director at Chicago Shakespeare Theater and I said, Bob, I want to change agents. He said, okay, who do you want me to call? Boom. I'd been working with Bob in casting, and I was it was in the shows and all sorts of stuff like that. So we knew each other. And so we called one place, got me in, and they had me audition. They put me on camera doing like a monologue or reading something. And I was like, no. Yeah, I will do this to see if you guys want to represent me, because they represent across the board on camera voiceover. Right. And I said, but that's not what I do. Here's my real resume, and here's a CD. Listen, this is the real deal. This is where I make money. This is where we can make money.
Okay.
And they looked at it and they went, nah. But that agent who said, our team declined we're not going to represent Tom, we have somebody else that's kind of in the same neighborhood. Why don't you call this person over at this other agency, Grossman and Jack Talent? And so Bob then feeds this to me, and I said, yeah, let's call her. And the woman that he gets on the phone used to be at the agency that I'm leaving. So she knew me and she knew my work. And so she's there, and I'm standing in the office. Bob's talking on the phone, and he says to her, oh, she asks some question, and he says, oh, no, he's looking to leave. He's not multi-listing. He's looking to leave. And he's nodding at me like, you're looking to leave, right? You're not gonna screw around. You're looking to leave. And I said, yeah, I'm not. And I nod back at him. He said, oh yeah, Tom wants to change things up. Okay, sure. So he sets up this appointment. And so I got that other appointment because they knew, right? It's this person who knew me, this weird network in Chicago. Is a pretty small town. And then I walked in and I said, hey, thanks for seeing me. And I saw the person that I used to know at this other agency and talked to her. And then this wonderful woman by the name of Vanessa Lanier, I said, here's my demo, here's this. I pretty much do voiceover. I'll do whatever you want. But the place I've seen most success is in this voice acting thing. And she's like, all right, come in. She's like, the image you need is, she grabs me by the wrist, puts a script in my hand, and puts me in the booth, and she sits in there, right? And so I read the script a couple times. She gives me a little direction. I read it again. She's like, yeah. Yep. Okay. And that was it. They signed me. And then working with her and the rest of the team too, Vanessa was unbelievable, and has been there since day one, pushing the rest of the agency, which has grown and shrunk, over time, to say, no, you put Tom on everything. So as much as it was like, oh, I found this thing, but it was a thing that made money, but it was also this support of somebody that says, no, you can do this thing here. We're going to position you to do this thing. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot, right? It was, one thing, a door closing, a window opening, that kind of thing. And then, support from a team of people, a little path of least resistance. And then, sucking it up in the hard times too, especially, first moving to Los Angeles, all of that. So anybody who says, here's the path, nah, there is no one path. There's a billion ways of doing it. Just look at the cast of the Persona games, the backgrounds, where everybody comes from, where they come from in the country. Oh, you've got, crunchy actors. You've got an improver. You've got somebody that was a tester who they happened to put into the booth to do, to do temp dialogue, and then suddenly went, he's pretty good. What if we put him in the games, And you'll be surprised. There are a few people with that background in the industry too, which is fantastic.
Definitely. As someone who content creates himself, I can understand that, that feeling of like, it feels like sometimes things don't work out, but you just got to keep at it over and over and over again, because if it's something you love, eventually those results will come through, and people love to see just how like much you put into your work. And if you love your work, it shows. And I think everybody here can agree, like, everybody loves your work because you put that much effort into it.
And the iteration is the thing. The failure is the thing, right? You don't necessarily see the hundreds of auditions that maybe not failed, but at least they weren't picked, right? Because casting is a thing. I think you as a content creator and anybody who's making their own stuff are doing the right thing. I didn't do this for a variety of reasons, but you're making your own thing. I still feel like I am beholden to other people's things. I got a friend of mine from college who went back. He's getting his writing degree, and he had this realization. He's like, I'm tired of my creative process being left up to somebody else in casting and putting me into something. He's like, I want to create, dang it. And he realized, wait a minute, I can just write. No, I don't have to wait for permission or for the right role or whatever. I can just create my own thing. And that is, and that's phenomenal. And I love that they found it, and found it kind of later in life. And kind of like you gave up Chicago and everything and moved down to New Orleans, and he was like, oh yeah, I like this. I like the grit. I like the color. I love the fun. This is a great place. And he studied writing down there. So I love that. And I don't necessarily have that, freedom to just create a thing. But again, I've been fortunate to have enough people say yes. So I do get to be creative. And I also will say that, like the audiobook space is fun and creative, because while there are certain constraints, it's also, here's a book, read it out loud, please. I'm like, okay. And it's like, you sure? Because I don't know if y'all heard that Mass Effect book, but I can go all over the place if you let me. And they're like, no, do the thing. I said, okay. So that's
I'm doing the thing.
Yep. It's like, all right, it's gonna be weird noises, and I'm gonna do volus breathing, and oh, you left it in, yay. Yeah.
I have a question from two people that I want to be combined into one here. Totally Tacky wants to know your favorite Zenkichi moment, and Magic Maddie wants to know, how did you feel about the reception of Zenkichi by the Persona fandom, especially with all the art and similar fan-made content of them?
So I think the favorite moment, it's probably the freaking out moments where you first see Morgana, right, and being led into the Phantom Zone and all of that, because it was like one take, maybe two takes, and then everybody else on the other end of the line was laughing, and I'm like, okay, good. This should be that. This should be funny, because we knew where things were going. Right. And I was like, no, you got to have this levity up front, and it shows a different side of stuff. So that's some of my favorite stuff, and that was just from a performance standpoint. I was like, oh, I know this. I know how to do this. This is that funny. This is that kind of anime freak out moment. Okay, let's go. And it was a lot of fun. The reception, as I said, has been phenomenal. awkward and strange, anime dad, as my friends, as even my friends are like, "Sup, anime dad." I'm like, you guys gotta stop that. But it's great, especially since the character is, is older. It's not your typical Phantom Thief. When they added people to when they added characters in Royal, it's like, nah, that's still something in the same milieu, right? That character is still the same age, the same kind of cohort, and then they introduce something different. And if you guys too like that and appreciate that, that's fantastic, So I'm really appreciative and blown away at everybody enjoying it as much as we did putting it together.
Yeah, I definitely do. Like, I've played through all of Strikers, and I those moments in which like you freaked out about like being like the whole metaverse and everything, whatever. Like those were really really good direction. Like, it just hit really well.
It's so funny.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
Let's
you.
see. What do I want to pick out from here? Okay. So, a question from this is like an emoticon thing or whatever, like a sweating emoticon, I guess. Is they ask if you've played Persona 5 original and or Royal, how well do you think Zenkichi will get along with Goro Akechi?
I have no idea. That's a different dynamic, right? Like just characters and character dynamic and kind of punching together. I have no say in that. You all even know all this stuff better than I do. I'm a game grazer. There are a few that I dig into, but I graze because of time and other things like that.
Right.
Also, I love indie games because a lot of times they don't have voice acting, and voice acting takes me out of enjoying most games. I do not. No insult to anybody localizing because these are my friends now. I will play like the Monster Hunter games. I will play in Japanese or the fake Monster Hunter language. I I also, I watch anime with subtitles because I don't have it on while I'm doing something else. I'm somebody that watches and focuses on the thing so I don't mind subtitles.
Right.
But I don't listen to audiobooks. It's got to be a heck of a TV show for me to stop watching people working. Like podcasts, podcasts and comic books are some of the few things in my life that are pure, like, entertainment for entertainment, because otherwise all I'm thinking about is work.
Right.
And that, like, even reading a book, like my narrator mode starts kicking in, like how's that sound, and what's this guy sound like, and what's this person sound like, and I can't read the book. It's got to be like a Warhammer 40K novel, right? Just big dumb alien, crazy stuff for me to forget work. So like
Right.
my wife reading her historical World War II fiction, I'm like, no, I can't. It's just, it sounds like the stuff that I narrate, and my head just gets into that space.
Right. So it's like
So
a thing where you got to separate the two so you can actually fully enjoy it.
yes, yeah. That's hard.
Understandable.
So sorry to take like a kind of a, a well-meaning question about, the worlds uniting and characters and spaces and what ifs to kind of a depressing place, but but here we are.
Bring it back up.
Perfectly fine.
Speaking of indie games, you were also the voice of Octodad, correct? Do you got any memories voicing Octodad? This is asked by
God.
Sonic Crafter King.
Oh God, yeah. You kidding me? The most fun ever. I don't know if many people hear from other stuff or whatever, but have seen other instances of me talking about it. But so those guys, the first Octodad, simply called Octodad, was an indie game that they produced as part of the, I think, Touchstone, whatever. But their interactive interactive media department at DePaul University. So the whole team originally was just these students that got together, and their assignment, their like senior thesis basically, was to make an indie game. and they basically locked themselves in a room and came up with ideas. They'd pitch it to the teacher and to other cohorts, and everybody go, more, not unique enough. So they're throwing out ideas, and we're talking about the creative iteration, right? Right? You think of like Prince's vault of unreleased music because he's like, no, it's not right enough yet. How much iteration he did to create Purple Rain, because he's like, no, here's the crap you do not see. And that I'm wondering what's on the the drawing room floor back at the university that they did not pick. So they finally like, okay, it's an octopus masquerading as a father and the adventures he goes on, and he's hard to control because he's an octopus on land. And everybody's like, yeah, that's batshit. Yeah, that's the game. That's
genius.
it. That's the one. It really is. So my agency, Grossman and Jack Talent in Chicago, has a special deal with the union, SAG-AFTRA, where DePaul sends over from their animation and game department all of the stuff that these students need voices for, and the agent throws it to all of us, and they say, look, it's just a lot of fun. You get $100, but they get you for a few hours, and you get to voice all their stuff. There's a special deal so that the DePaul students could work with a bunch of pros. Right. And they have gotten to work with like some of the best in Chicago, people whom I love and I look up to. And so this thing comes across, and I was like, oh, he's an octopus. Okay. And it's like, he doesn't speak. He just has intentions. And so they have just like intentions. He puts it in like in stars to let you know what the idea is. And sometimes how long it needs to be. And so I'm looking at this and I go, okay, an octopus. That's a beak. And I'm like, nah, that's not good. That's you can't, like clicky. I'm like, that's not good. That's not fun. And then I was like, well, what if it's just every single burbly wet sound I can come up with?
I have feelings about that.
Well, it's all there. And so I can like point out like where different sounds come from. And then, I change pitch to give intention. I've been using my my fingers to like drum up on my lips to get different things to change it up.
Bit of
and
work. Okay.
So that was the creation. And then I come in and we knock it all out. And then it gets like some like indie awards or nominations for like indie game stuff. And then they all graduate, and a little bit later they do their Kickstarter. All that comes out, and they get some money from like Notch and other things like that before Notch went sideways. And and so they just came back to me and they said, hey, we're making like the real deal. We're going to do the real deal. Do you want to come back and play Octodad? I was like, sure, let's do the thing. And they said, hey, do you know anybody that can play the mother? I know we had this other person, but we're just, looking. We were trying to, bring in just a few actors to cover everything. And I said, oh, that's Anne Sonneville, the woman you had playing the mother last time. By the way, yeah, I can put you in touch with her, and she's even better than when you used her the first time. And so Anne covered the son and the mom in that game. And then they were on Twitter, and somebody's had some voice acting and voiceover game audio discussion, an argument, of course. And this one woman was not just very opinionated, but right. She was correct. And they reached out and they were part of the discussion. And then they looked at her Twitter profile and it says, oh, she's a voice actor. Huh. And they clicked through and they went to her webpage and they go, oh, she's pretty good. She's got some little girl voices there. Pretty cool. Hey. So they emailed, they read and said, hey, we're putting together a game and we saw you in this discussion and we're wondering, could you just audition for this thing? We really think you'd be a great fix. And she's like, sure, whatever. So that person wound up playing the little girl in the game. And that person is Frida Wolf, whom you all probably know as Loba from Apex Legends. But then also that's Sarah Ryder. So
Ooh.
Frida and I knew each other long before we were in Mass Effect together. And Frida, of course, is exploding all over the place. She's an Apex legend and all sorts of stuff like that. So yeah, there's all sorts of great stuff about Octodad. But I love the origin story is some of my funnest, some of the best stuff, just because of all the people that come and go, and just also that, who kind of thing. Yes, it came off an audition, but there were a bunch of things that kind of had to be set up before I even got the audition.
Right.
I have a fun little thing. You voiced two iconic dad figures. Mike the Nichols wants to ask, who do you think would be a better father figure, Octodad or Zenkichi?
Octodad.
Wow.
Yeah, that was that quick. Because there's a purity to Octodad. He just wants one thing. He just wants to do what's best for his family. Yes, he's got something in the closet, a skeleton. Well, no, not a skeleton, I guess, because it's a cephalopod. But it's still that the purity. There's none of the waffling. There's none of the soul searching. There's none of the failure. There is only the purity of a dad just trying to do the best dadding that he can. Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks.
Boom.
You were quick on that.
Yep.
All right. I have a question that focuses a little bit more on Zenkichi.
Sure.
I know you said you haven't grazed much of the Persona series, but are you familiar with the dancing games?
Yeah.
So, Leo wants to ask, what do you think Zenkichi's dancing style will be if he were placed in the dancing games?
Everybody here see Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I
need to watch it.
Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo at the club. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Oh, someone get a link of something there. Someone get a gif in that.
Yeah, just put Zenkichi's head on Baron Zemo. Yeah.
Oh man, it's interesting and just interesting. I always thought about it. I was like, I wonder if they'll go back and add these characters to the game, and if such and so forth. Like, I would love to see like Zenkichi's kind of awkward style come through in his dancing and such and so forth.
And put his heart in it.
All right. Okay. I noticed earlier you also mentioned something about Monster Hunter. So Sonic Kick wants to know, like, what is your favorite flagship monster in the Monster Hunter series?
I don't know if it's a flagship, but
favorite monster overall, I guess.
God, the awful Basil Goose. Okay, everybody, we got this thing. We're gonna go here. We're gonna take down the Anjanath. Everything's fine. Oh no!
Not Bomberman X.
So good. It's so good, and I loved the stealth. I wish they'd done a better job of it, but the way they stealth dropped him into Rise, I loved it. I just wish that, because depending upon where you were in the Rise mission and storyline, you go in and the elder tells you, hey, there's a Basil Goose out there, and I wanted it to be, you're on a totally unrelated quest, you're just out doing whatever, and then suddenly it's like, they stealth dropped Basil Goose, no. Yeah, that would have been the thing. Like, it was the way they should have done the Predator in the, what was it, one of the Rainbow Six games, the open world ones, where they said, hey, we've added Predator. I'm like, no, the way you add Predator is you just drop him into the game. You don't tell anybody what's happening, and everybody's suddenly getting murdered, and you have Predator noises and stuff. It's like, that's the way to do it. But I know that there's a whole marketing department going, we can't sell that.
Yeah.
So I get it, but we paid a lot for the Predator license. I can't sell that.
Right.
Yeah.
Hasogariaka says, I've seen that you're a huge fan of Misérables. I think I said that. So what are your thoughts on Valjean being Zenkichi's persona, and did it influence the direction you took for voicing him and or Zenkichi?
No, because I didn't see anything about Valjean or anything until that moment came up in the script.
Wow.
Didn't exist. It was not a thing. I'm trying to remember that I may be misremembering it, and I would have to go back and find the audition track and email and everything like that. But I don't think that I even knew how that was until it kicked into the script and we're reading through it on the screen and I'm looking at it and I was like, that's hysterical. As a musical theater nerd, I thought that was brilliant because it works with the character, but then also that I was like, there's some musical theater nerd at on the Persona team in Japan, and I absolutely loved it. And so I'm out there, like we're like between takes, and start singing "Stars" from Les Mis and all sort of stuff, and do you hear the people sing? And it was a great little bit, kind of like a reveal that like if you get the reference, and I think what's wonderful is everybody in the community is getting the reference. Whether it be a classical literature or a musical theater reference, it's perfect. It works so well. It's such a great like thing creatively where they kind of went, huh? You like that? Yeah, we knew we had an officer of the law and he's doing this and this is the journey, right? And so it's Persona's you get it, right? And he's Javert, so his conscience kind of person, his personality is Valjean. You get it. And so there was like nothing I could have done when it showed up. It was just how it was. And so, yeah, there's no alteration to the performance. It's like already there in the text. You just play it. It was written well and localized so well. Yeah, John and Tessa did such great stuff with the localization. And it's fantastic.
Speaking of working with team and such and so forth, if Tom CM91 wants to ask, have you had any opportunities to, maybe hang out with the other Fantasy VAs, whether it be like projects or, not at all?
No, not at all. Not at all. A lot of them, so I'm not at an agency that they're at. So I've never run it at an agency. And they're busy on very different projects than I am, and busier than I am. They're all pretty busy, successful people. Again, why am I in this game with these people? They're really, really good. The one instance I will say that I ran into anybody, and it was Matt Mercer, but it was like
Mercer himself.
But it was like 5 or 6 years ago. So I just moved to town, and I was out doing a callback for a sound alike for a mobile game. And I was the first one on the list, and I signed in. I went in, I knocked out my audition. I'm on my way out. I'm signing out. I look up, corner of my eye. There's two people coming out of the elevator, chatting it up, having a good time. And one of them's Matt Mercer. The hair, whole 9 yards, right? And so he's on his way in, and he sees me as I'm on my way out. And the look he gave me wasn't, who's the effing new guy? It was, I usually know everybody at these things. Who's the new guy? Like genuine, like looking at me like, whoa, is there somebody, there's, a new challenger has approached, and it was genuine but it was genuine curiosity. Like, and as I'm on my way out and I'm on my way in, he's like, hey, Matt. I'm like, Tom, right? And he's like, oh, nice to meet you. Hey, break a leg. Oh, thanks, man. You too. And that was it. And that was like my introduction to, again, somebody whose work I know and I like and look up to. And I thought, oh man, he's the real deal. He could have been, aloof or not caring or whatever, but no, it was genuinely, I usually know everybody at these things. I'm genuinely curious, who's the new guy? And he took the time to introduce himself. And it was awesome. I was like, yep, I was right to look up to and to teach his work because he's the real deal. He's a good guy.
Yeah. This suspiciously reminds me of how Kingdom Hearts is created, by the way, the fated elevator meeting between two executives.
Yeah, right. And it's just pitching something and seeing what flies. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I have another question that I can actually combine because they're very similar in thing. Clive wants to ask, is there any aspect of yourself that you incorporated in Zenkichi's character that wasn't explicitly stated? And to follow up with that, Zenkichi and Kane have a unique relationship by the end of Strikers together in such a sweet way. Did you just channel in some of your own fatherly energy towards Kane when you had to speak with them?
Some of that like fatherly energy, like absolutely. There's just, and not all dads are going to be the same. but you hit a point and you're just like, oh, it's a dad doing this. Oh, I know how to do that. I know what that tone is. I know what that sounds like. I know how to play this thing. Insofar as let's see, insofar as like myself there's the dad part, right? There's being a father. But if you listen to some of the snark, some of that snark delivery, like in the first meeting with everybody, and the timing of some of the jokey lines, like, the guy runs off, will you take this guy with you? That kind of thing. If you listen closely, the tone is different, the placement is different, but it's Scott Ryder, by the way. It really, some of that joke kind of off the cuff is very Ryder delivery. And that's because Ryder was more, fun, young, youthful, jokey. One of the things that we wanted to run away from in Andromeda was you're running away from Shepard at all times, because Shepard was like a war hero or a survivor, right? So that's there's a grit, there's a groundedness, and Sarah and Scott did not have that. Whereas I think Zenkichi does have that. There is a grounded quality to him and a focus, which is great. And so then I think the more me parts are when like the joke comes in, or when when he loses it, seeing, the Phantom Zone for the first time, and, Morgana, all that stuff. It's just, that's a little more me. Like, oh yeah, the funny stuff. I got this. Let's go.
Right. And yeah, speaking a little bit more on the relationship between Zenkichi and Akane, like, is there anything that you've possibly like experienced in your own life that you may have like, channeled in those moments specifically?
Not really. I've been really fortunate, and I'm pretty fortunate with both of my kids. They're really good kids, and I love them very much. So I mean, there's that, right? Despite whatever, you love them very much, and you try your best, though you fail miserably, right? You tried your best and you failed miserably. The lesson is never try. But and so there is that. But in my own life and relationships, like I still have both my parents somehow, and I grew up with both of them. There's not that tragic situations, but what's great though, you try to, when people talk about, oh, bring yourself, bring stuff, it's like you don't have to necessarily find those connections and think about them. One, in the moment, you don't get to see the script ahead of time. You don't get any of this stuff. You just see the words in the Excel spreadsheet and go. So you have only what you already bring with you. There's no rummaging through the backpack to find that stuff. You just do it. And so it comes out in the moment. And then again, it's written well. So it just plays itself at a certain point. So it's a combination of whatever you already have in the hopper, along with the good words, and honestly, good casting. If you're cast right, it only takes one or two takes, because you get it, and the director gets it, and the line comes out, and you're like, yeah, that's it. Go, go, go. So all of that came into it. It's nothing that I had to like rummage through to find stuff a lot of times, because there's no time for that. This is not the same crunchy acting procedure that you'll see in plays or on television and films, because there's no time. Which makes, I think, some of the performances that you get out of this stuff all the more impressive, because we're not on a soundstage. We're not doing any of this stuff. It is just you and your imagination in the moment, and other people on a Zoom call, doing that. Again, we were not in the studio for any of this. No FaceTime, all Zoom at our home spaces. So what you got out of Strikers performance-wise I think is doubly impressive because of the extenuating circumstances.
Definitely. I know it's been really tough, this pandemic, for a lot of people, and in spite of that, like, some of these projects have come together to deliver some amazing, impressive performances, and Strikers is a testament to that.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I cannot wait to see if anybody picks up on what games were and were not recorded during the pandemic that start to come out this year and next year. I'm really curious to see if anybody picks up on it. I know there's a bunch of Lance Reddick in Destiny that I know for a fact because he sent videos of him in his walk-in closet with a USB microphone, you know, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, what's that sound like? Like, how do they, you know, how did that work? Because they were doing that. They were sending out USB microphones to, you know, on-camera people, celebrity people for all sorts of stuff. And then, you know, for this, they PCB, the wonderful people, the studio that put this together, they have these mobile rigs. They have a lot of them now, and they would ship them to everybody around the LA area, drive them to their houses. We'd set them up in our homes and then ship them out when we're all done. So while you set it all up, all of the recording can be managed remotely via internet. He just logged into the computer that's here remotely and runs everything from there.
I see.
But we still had to provide like 2 other screens for like the script and then another screen for them in the Zoom. And yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, I don't know if anybody has pictures, but I'd be very curious to see if the rest of the cast has pictures of their home studios from their process. Because mine was like this claustrophobic thing because I already have this box that I'm in right now, but it's got a table in here for all of this stuff, for books and everything else that I do. And then I had to have the reflection filter in here, which takes up an enormous amount of space. So I'm in this tiny little room. I had to turn the fan down because it was too loud to get the noise floor. So it's just hot and sweltering. And yeah. It's a process.
That's how we do it, guys. That's how we do
it.
it.
So I would be very curious to see if the rest of the cast has pictures of themselves working with these rigs, either on this or other projects, because I think it's really cool. You know, a lot of voice acting is okay. Here you are in a completely artificial, unnaturalistic environment. Now be natural. Now be normal. Right? I mean, on camera is that way too. I think a lot of acting experiences are like that. But at least in certain places, you can get some semblance of connection, either with a place or a space or a person. There is none of that in voice acting. So it's makes it pretty amazing what we come up with.
I definitely agree.
Will Bill the Aspie Rebel wants to ask, what was your funniest and favorite moment of playing Zenkichi, and do you wish he would be in future games? Would you want to reprise his role?
Oh yeah, I mean, sure. I like to work. Work is great. And it would be fun to see like what else could we do, but it could also be like a strange. It also might be a dance game, right? I don't know. There's so much that they've got with the Persona stuff, that they could play with. Would they do another thing with the 5 team? I don't know. That would be very, very interesting. So I mean, of course, I'd want to do it again, just from a work standpoint. I think it's up to them, in Japan to go, hey, does this relationship to these people have legs? Do we have another story that we want to tell with this gang? And I'd just be curious to see what that story is. Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Actually, I've got a question that I think a lot of people, want to ask. Not only you, but like just voice actors in general. Like, Zell wants to know, have you ever had a problem where people have called you by a character's name and treated you like you are that character? Has a situation like that ever appeared to you?
No. I mean, I've not. I don't have the same notoriety that the other people on the series have, especially since they they're known too, not just Persona, but other games, anime, all sorts of stuff. I don't have that, so nobody knows me from anything, and it's kind of cool. That's not bad. I will say there was one time many years ago. I was at and because there's all these times there's certain people you see these videos, these voice actors, they go out to like you'll see people they'll call children's hospitals as their characters and do all this really cool stuff. And that would always be like a kind of a dream, like, oh, I made it, that I can do this thing. But like my own tiny little version of that was I was at Disneyland with my family, and I wore one of my Octodad shirts, and we're waiting in line, and my wife points out to me, "Hey, what?" And I said, "This little boy like next to us in line and keeps pointing at your shirt. I think he knows Octodad." And so the parents say, "Oh, where did you get the shirt?" And I said, "Oh, it's back in Chicago years ago." Said, "Oh, he hasn't played the game, but he loves it. He's watched like he watches it like a cartoon on YouTube, all the cutscenes, and then he watches people play it. He thinks Octodad's fantastic. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And my wife's like, no, this is the part where you tell them what you do. and I'm like, no, I just want to have a day at the park. No, she's like, no, tell him. And so Leah's like, he's the voice of Octodad. And the parents and Luke is like, wait, what? I said, I'm the voice of Octodad. And so the little boy is looking at me, and the parents are looking at me, and Leah's like, do it. Do it. That's my wife's name, Leah. Do it. Do it. I'm like, okay. So it's noisy. We're outside. We're waiting in line for the Cars ride, which is really good, by the way. So I kneel down. I'm next to the kid's ear, and I go, and the look on that kid's face, if I could do that for like any kid or any person anywhere ever again, I would in a heartbeat. It was amazing to see his eyes like light up and see his mind blown. I was just like, oh, that was awesome. That was awesome. So the chance, maybe someday, the opportunity to do that again, it's sign me up.
Sounds like an amazing story to tell.
Yeah, that's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Oh, our own Dragon Drop It wants to ask, how was it like saying the "I am the cops" line at the beginning of Strikers?
Always fun, right? I mean, I am the cops. Yeah, all of that bravado was a lot of fun. Fun fact too. Final day of everything on Strikers, we were filling in holes and everything like that. And again, we recorded it with the exception of like some of the shout outs and other things like that. We recorded it sequentially. So because it's a linear game, very linear script. So we recorded it in order. Final day, we finish everything up. We've got a bunch of time left. And Keith says, hey, now that we've got it set, why don't we go back and re-record at the top of the game? Knowing what you know about Zenkichi, I think we've got a great space. And it's not that we don't have good stuff already from the top of the game, but we've got time. Let's re-record the opening scenes of the game with everything we've done in mind. I was like, I love it. Let's do it. So we re-recorded the top of the game. So I don't know what lines they chose, the takes from day 1 or day 2 or the final day of the re-record. That's something only they will know.
Interesting. I know you mentioned that you didn't really have any in booth with other people things and such and so forth. But Kuso Saiki wants to know, do you have any funny moments or bloopers while recording for Zenkichi that may have taken place?
I don't know. I want to say they've got something because they just hit record on all the things, but I don't think so. Although I guess there's supposedly they do keep they keep a blooper reel hidden somewhere and they bring it out at holiday parties or something like that over at PCB. It was a pretty straightforward record, to be honest. Depending upon what we're doing, in the recording session, I'm pretty dull. I'm not entertaining the space or anything like that, I think of some friends of mine back in Chicago. They were doing the Miller Lite or the Bud Light commercials where they had the footage of the football and other coaches talking to people, and then they had actors portraying, the people asking questions. Those guys are all like improvisers, real funny guys. They would get in there and they would record, they could take a whole day, but record like 7 commercials in one day because it was all tight, quick stuff. And they were improvising, they were punching up scripts, doing all sorts of stuff. But part of the other thing that they were kind of expected to do throughout the day, because everybody else in that room is an extra, is to entertain the troops between takes. And they would. A whole day of that. And I was like, wow. Buddy, Dan Stransky was on those. I was like, wow, Dan, that sounds exhausting. No, thank you. He's like, it paid really well. And so we're like, hey, let's improvise this thing. He's like, oh yeah, we were dead tired at the end of the day. But, we did record like 7 or 8 commercials over the course of an 8 to 10 hour day. So not bad. And I said, yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty I'm pretty dull for the most part in a session. Very, very work person, business like. It's the Midwest thing.
That's fair. That's fair. All right.
Like probably I have a question from Cosmo. It says, when you received the role of Zenkichi, did you expect to be a big deal due to the insane popularity of the Persona franchise?
A little bit. Again, it's like I've been through it and kind of no insult to the Mass Effect community if anybody's from there's listening, but it's like I've been there before, right? I've been there, I've been burned. Everybody's like, "Oh, this is gonna be the thing," and it wasn't the thing, and nothing happened to me because of it. You know, I'm still out here auditioning. Nobody's handing another role. And so I was like, "Oh, this is cool." And then, as you know, new character, again, a very well loved, established franchise with established people, and it's like, well, how are people going to react to that? You don't know, so you just go, "All right, walk in, do the job, best of my ability, and hopefully, people take to it." So I'm fortunate they did.
Oh, that's good to know. I see we're creeping up on time here, so I think I want to just bring this one last question, also from Tasagareka. Wow, that's like multiple questions, but I think I'm going to choose this one in particular. They say, until today, it is still a shame that this line isn't voiced in the game. So if it is at all possible, they like to hear you say the line, "Just you wait, Daddy. He's gonna make you your new favorite meal real soon."
Sure.
All right, guys, get ready.
Just you wait. Daddy's gonna make your new favorite meal real soon.
There you have it.
He said it, y'all. He said it.
We saw that. I think I'm trying to remember if it came out on the internet or what, but I remember seeing that, and I think it was like everybody like, "Why is this not voiced? Why is this not in the game?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't think we saw it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, is there any I know for a fact sometimes there are lines that people see that are like, why wasn't this voiced? It's such a good line, Have you had those moments before, like without not just with that line, but like other ones as well?
No, because you don't know what's voiced and not voiced until it's too late. You just get the script and you just go. So you have no idea until everything's done.
Right.
This is such a low context, low information job sometimes. You don't know, and so you just do the best you can with the information in front of you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I just got one last quick question right here from Sweet Tooth 00. So, is Zenkichi the most hip old man out there?
Yeah, I think so. But don't discount Octodad. I'll tell you right now.
We can't forget Octodad.
Suddenly it's the Octodad panel. You did not expect that. And here we are. No, I will always shout out to Octodad because it's still those guys are still some of the craziest, most creative people, especially in the game space, that I've ever worked with. So when they approached me about the new game a number of years ago, they said, "We're working on this new game. I think we're going to call it Bugsnax." I'm like, "Oh my God, what are you guys doing?" And so, yeah, they asked, like, "Could you just record some stuff? We're trying to get some placeholder audio and we don't know what we want to do." And I said, "Sure." They're like, "Well, we can't pay." I'm like, No, I'm a consultant. Just whatever. What do you need?" And they're like, "Well, we don't know what we want to do. Here's these little creatures and we don't know. So could you give us a couple options of them just making little creature sounds? And then could you do an option where they say their names like Pokemon?" They weren't sold on that yet. So I played around for about an hour, gave them some options and all this other stuff, and then I wrote them back with all the audio. I said, "Here's the audio. I gotta tell you guys, I know it's gonna seem cheap and you may not be sold on it, but I'm telling you right now, these things saying their names works real well. Like, not only is it a good hook and it's kind of a callback, like, you can kind of wink and say, see what we're doing. But on top of that, like from a performance aspect, I felt like it was easier to hook into. You know what I mean? You've got, it's like having a script, but you can just play with the words and interpret it however you want. The script, however, though, is just Strabby or Bunger, And yeah, like they're nuts. Yeah, Bunger.
Going crazy for Bunger.
Bunger. Bunger. That's all it is. I don't know if you I don't know if there's a lot of stuff. There's some stuff I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is unique. This is whatever. And then Bunker blows up. I'm like, guys, it's just like a golden retriever. It's
you'll see so much effort put into so many like intricate things, and then it gets no love, and then like bunker, and then it just blows up. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah, nope. That's you do not know what's going to hit. So talking about did you expect Zenkichi to be received well, or how did you feel about this? It's like you don't know, so you just throw stuff in the can and hope for the best. Look for the next job.
Yep. All right. Well, yeah, we're a little bit over time, so I think you want to call it there, Hoodie?
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to shout out, Tom? We want to be able to support you best we can.
No, I appreciate it. I really have nothing because I'm thinking like, well, what do I have in the hopper? Oh, I can't discuss anything.
Yes.
And like but also, like I said, I'm not as busy as some of the other people and some of these other cast members, always doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So I have a lot of audiobooks. If you're looking for some science fiction or something like that, some mysteries, just look me up on Audible or Downpour or wherever you want to listen to fine audiobooks. I will plug until the day I die, however. Hold on. I need to look up the name of it because I want to make sure I've got it correct. Catherine M. Valenti's Mass Effect Andromeda Annihilation. I got to do the narration on that one, and it's some of the most fun I've ever had on an audiobook. Really well written, pretty well performed, if I must say so myself. And if you want to listen to Ryder voice for like 8 to 10 hours, I also went out of my way to do the narration in Ryder voice. So, which is not the case in like any of my other books. However, most of my books, if there is a main protagonist, he does sound like Scott Ryder. Why? Because that is the sound of like the everyman hero, right? That's the Nolan North. That's the Matt Mercer. That's all it is. And all these books like call for that. So I'm like, well, why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
Yep. So there's plenty of ways to listen to my garbage if you feel like listening to my garbage, right?
And your voice is smooth as butter, man. It's so great.
Oh, it's just microphone. Anybody can sound like this for a very for a lot of money, dude. It's this mic and this preamp. It's got nothing to do with me. So no, I appreciate it. Yeah. So I really appreciate. This is the TLM 103, Neumann TLM 103. So I got this like when I first got a home studio back in the Midwest, because this is the staple in all of the animation houses in LA. That changes depending upon where you're at, but this was the staple like years and years and years ago. So I said, well, that's what I want in my studio, but it requires a really good room, because it picks up everything. The other microphone I have is the Sennheiser 416, which is the shotgun microphone, which I do for all commercial work, because with the exception of radio spots, that is what all commercial work is, because it just cuts through any mix. It just brings everything out there. And then you don't have to have the best room, because it just picks up in a very specific pattern, whereas the 103 picks up everything. Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'll keep that in mind.
Oh yeah, look it up. Yeah, keep it in mind, and then see how much those things are, and you go, oh no, forget it.
Maybe I won't keep this in mind.
Yeah, just no. I'll stick with the AT 2020. This is a good microphone. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy. Do you have any socials we could follow you on and see what else you're up to?
The one social I have is at Taylorson on Twitter. Because I'm an audio person, not a visual person so I don't do Instagram like everybody else, and I'm not a very visual person. Like, don't look at me. There's a reason I'm in the booth, right? So yeah, at Taylorson on Twitter is the place to be, and I appreciate all of you anime avatars already following me and giving a rat's ass about what I say anyways. You've been fantastic and welcoming, and it's also really cool to see you all as the Persona community being just awesome and welcoming, to each other. There's something about that is heartening and wonderful. and that you all have this community together, and then to be invited in to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
We're happy
Thank
to
you.
have you. Can we get some loves to Tom Taylorson? Let's get some hearts and loves in chat to Tom here.
Damn those balls, yeah.
Span the world, span the hearts, span the bungers, the octopus, all of that.
Hunger. Oh, Bongo Cat. Oh, you guys got some really great like custom emojis in here too. You've got the dancing workout. Oh man. I need some of that on my Discord servers. That's what I need.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that'll wrap it up for this Q&A session. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you later for when we have Wendy Lee.
Thank you for coming, y'all.
Yes.
So sweet.
That was awesome.
Pinky Winky, Mr. Tommy.
Yeah, just
He's typing his text chat.
oh.
Yay! High five.
See, I told you I had it.
Hey.
Yeah.
Here, you love the Kuza heart. I love you. Oh my god. I love this dude so much.
He's awesome.
Oh my god.
There
Hi.
we go. Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
My dog's like, "Are you done yet? Are you done?" She's just lying here outside the box. Are you done?
We just
We
need a
see your
few moments
dog.
of your time is all.
That was great.
You were
Awesome.
an absolute joy to talk with and everything.
Yeah.
You're
Thank
the
you.
sweetest.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Totally.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Very
as a little
funny.
thank you, Mr. Tom. We've been asking our artist alley artist to make gift art for our guests here, so you might be getting a small package with a few artists making you some fan art. Thanks.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just a way
Make
of
sure
showing,
they make sure they all have like a signature on it or
definitely
something like
definitely.
that. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's perfect because I want to be able to like plug it too when it's all done.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's also a new thing. Like, there's not a lot of Ryder stuff out there, so I so I grab what I can. Because again, it's you all having this ability to express your interest and your fandom and all this other stuff, and like I said, to be a part of it. This just like having a family as part of my goals, life goals. I want to be an actor. Like this part, this also is not. This is also unexpected and not part of any of it at all. So I love it and appreciate it.
Definitely.
Of course, we're so happy that you were here to give us your time.
All right. Yeah.
Really
Because-
detailed and great answers.
Because I talk a lot. I did.
Yeah.
Not
I
a
did
bad
a-
thing.
Well, I did a workshop yesterday for Strawberry Hill Music, and a friend of mine took the class, and I was like, "Yeah, sorry, I ran over time, like a half hour, 45 minutes over on a 4-hour class." Because it was a class of 15. It took a lot to go through stuff. And my friend Lori, as I talked to her later in the day on Discord, and she says, "Oh, really? Tom going off for long, extended periods of time on a topic? Wow, who knew?" I'm like, "Shut up,
Wow.
Lori. The hell, Lori?" And she said, "Well, she said, you know how hard I had to work not to drag you during class?" I'm like, "Shut up, Lori." No. She's awesome, and yeah, she's right. So yeah, I got to tighten it up. But Strawberry Hill was nice, and like, could you teach again? I'm like, "Sure, I guess so." So yeah,
As long as you don't drag me again.
yeah. It's Lori, leave me alone. It's true.
So Tom, one last question.
Yes.
So can we see your dog?
Yeah, I don't. The
Let's
It's in a
camera
picture
was
of it,
here.
maybe.
Yeah, let me see. I gotta get. You know what? I gotta get my phone. I gotta get my phone.
Everyone takes
Ruby,
pictures of their pets.
Ruby, stay there.
Dog.
No, hold on. No, I can put it because if I can still have access to this channel from my mobile device or from the backstage channel,
Yeah,
I should be able to
Should.
post there. So just hold on a second. I gotta get the mic.
as long as it's the same account.
Stay. Stay.
I can't believe that worked.
Here. Come here. Sit. Stay.
Distant Tom noises.
All right. Let me see if this works here. Let me. All right. Okay, I have to click over to that. That's the speaking part. What's the text part? Voiceover. Yeah, voice acting backstage panel. There we go.
Yeah, VA backstage channel.
There we go. Here she is. I had to tell her to sit. Can you lie down? No, you can sit right there at attention. So here we go. No.
I'm actually.
This was here earlier. This is here earlier this morning.
Nice.
I think I'm dead.
Aw.
My heart
Yep.
just stopped.
Now to finish the trade offer, here are my 2 children.
Hold
Hold on.
please.
Give it a minute. There you go.
Oh,
I had an orange tabby like that many years ago. His name was Philippe.
Kitten.
Philippe. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. I don't have many. I think I have like 2 pictures of him, and it's because that was before the camera phone.
No.
That's how long ago it was. But then when you think about it, like every single phone having a camera on it, you go, oh, it's a long time ago. You go, no, that's only been ubiquitous, what, 10 years? Maybe 15? It's not that long.
Yeah. My cat's name. He's a little kitten. We got him like end of April. His name's Little Baby Man. I don't know what his name is. I just keep calling him Baby Man. And then the
Baby
bird,
Man.
his name is Turkey Bird. Turkey
I love
Bird.
it. Turkey.
Yeah. Turkey Bird.
That
Yeah,
sounds
I
right.
have a golden retriever.
In here.
I can't find any photos of my cat because it's just always the same. Just a gray cat that just always looks upset. But
Oh, that's a good dog. I
Yeah,
grew up
maybe
with a
I can-
golden.
maybe I can find one. It's a really old image though.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I have
Noodle
7 of them,
sending-
but I don't have a
There's better
picture of
photo
all
my
of them
dog from like
together.
years ago.
Oh my gosh.
I
That's a
have no dog to
beautiful golden.
share, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Probably
look
red
like
golden.
real
see the
dogs.
picture, man.
All
I'd
right.
have a dog or cat if my parents weren't allergic.
Okay, I gotta do this because I have since Ruby is our 3rd Samoyed.
What?
I think so. Yeah. Oh,
This
Poor doggos.
is one
Look
of
at that
my
good
dogs.
snout.
I took this.
Wait, I will have all night.
that's a good photo. Yeah.
Yeah, big
So
dog.
Rue's our 3rd Samoyed, and thankfully, so the first Sammys that we had though, we actually went to a place to pick them out, and they had just like the whole litter in a little pen. And I'm gonna show you a reason why you never go to look for a Sammy ever. When they have like the whole litter in a pen like that. I gotta find. Let me see like the first weeks of having her here. Nope, even smaller. Nope, even smaller. Nope, smaller.
Sorry, you guys can hear country music in the background. My sister has
Hey.
like 5 people over blasting that in her room. It's annoying.
Really
Now I
people
heard
like that.
Annoying.
Trying to see if I can find just the absolute like first week. Here you go. All right.
Okay.
This is her, and this is her with her original caretaker. Imagine walking into a room with a bunch of these just sitting in a pen and going, you only get to bring one home.
Oh no.
Damn.
Oh my
Like,
god.
what do you
Oh,
do? What do you do? Yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah,
can't.
and that's the thing. How do you? And that's the thing. We were like, I can't. So with her, we were not there. The person, she's like, here's the temperament of this one. You know, this is a good family dog. I was like, okay, because otherwise, when we got Uli, our first one, and it's just like, here's a pen of them, and look over there are the 1-year-olds, and those are also beautiful. It's oh my god.
Oh,
Nice.
Well, you don't at that point too. It's like, yeah, they're
This
just
is
gorgeous
like a-
dogs. How do you leave with one? It's like you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've been in the same situation, but with cats.
Mm-hmm.
Same here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We
That's
just took in stray cats randomly.
that's how I felt picking out Philippe. He was a rescue, and I was like, well, what do I do? I want to rescue all of these kitties.
hmm
But
Yeah, my mom
yeah.
right now. We started with 2. I don't know how it came to 7 or 8 right now.
it just happened.
It's like,
Mhm.
where'd you?
It's a funny photo I took a while ago of the 2 cats fighting. Because the kitten likes to attack the big cat. It's kind of funny.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
trying
they
to find
do.
this photo of my cat. I'm just now realizing I have more photos of like any other cat than my actual cat.
I know. I've been there.
My
Thinking
kitties.
about one?
And cat and Matrix cat.
Yeah. I remember you
They
posting
are.
that video to my rave of your cat dancing. It was
Oh.
We just came in.
It kind
Oh,
of
it
looks
was
like your cat has a
we
stand.
can also send you a link to
It's
that
so
too
dumb.
if
I
you
love
want to have
her.
a. If you want to link to the rave Yuto made just as a little extra treat, we can get that file to you also.
yeah. I
It's
really
pretty
want,
funky.
as many people to listen to it as possible. It was a great honor putting that together.
It's really good.
It's like I would have been
But
more
yeah.
active in chat if the boys didn't ask me to play Siege halfway through it. So
It's
you
all
know.
good. It's all good. But anyways, I've got to
Hope
head
we're
off
not
to this
keeping
panel
you up so
to
much.
yeah, I've got to head to this